Hey guys, thank you for stopping by and welcome to another episode of Making Sense of Life with me, Mario. If you have watched my previous video about finding direction, you would have probably sensed that in order to make sense of life, there is a certain way of living it. Now, as human beings, we all have different likes, dislikes, different temperaments, different thought processes, and so on and so forth. But I think one common thread that we can all relate to is about becoming a better version of ourselves. And to go along that part, I think we all have need to have a starting point, which is what brings me to the topic of today's video. So what is your starting point? As I asked myself this question, for me, my starting point is God. Now, you do not have to buy into my thought process, but you are most welcome to consider. And I would like to classify or group them into two basic categories, which is the causal aspect and the existential aspect. Now, speaking about the causal aspect, we as human beings like to have a reason for why we do what we do. For instance, if a salesperson comes to me pitching a product saying that, sir, why don't you buy this? The first question that comes to me is, what's in it for me? Why do I need to buy this product? Does it really suit my needs? Is it really feasible with my budget? And so on and so forth. If let's say a relative comes to you asking you for a favor, again the thought process goes on, what's in it for me, why is he coming and asking me this, and so on and so forth. So I suppose you can always apply this in different various contexts. Now, in the context of life, especially in the in proving the existence of God, imagine that you were living in a world that there was no God. You just came from nowhere, and you are going nowhere. Your life is just a matter of chance. If that were the case, why is it that we as human beings have this instinct to survive or to become a better version of ourselves? The thing is, our lives are shrouded with so much of meaning and purpose, but because of the constant bombardment of social media and entertainment and so on and so forth, we tend to forget or not look at the things that are really essential or important for our lives. And while some people would like to think of life as being complicated, I think it is in its very complexity that we actually discover the beauty and the grandeur of God's creation. Take for instance the human body. Every cell contributes to the overall functioning of the human body. And imagine if for one moment a cell were to malfunction, it could be fatal. Or think about the universe. How is it possible that all the planets move along the orbit without actually dashing into each other? Or how are the stars in the galaxy at a fixed place, and so on and so forth? The thing is, our human reality is so diverse and so complex that it's really hard to imagine as to to think that it could just come from nowhere. And moving on to the existential aspect, it's more about human morality. If there was no God, where does the concept of right and wrong come? Let's say that there is no God. I can do whatever I want. Like, for instance, morality doesn't really make sense because I'm not answerable to anybody. I can live my life on my own terms. I can party whenever I want. I can, spend how much ever I want. I'm not answerable to anybody. But is that the reason? And I think most people like kind of live lives. Of course, I'm not being judgmental, and neither am I a saint. But at the same time, I think having a God in place makes it more realistic to speak about an objective morality. Because when we believe that there is a higher power or a God that is above us, who watches over us, then I think sin and being good really makes sense. And to wrap it all up, I think having a good starting point is very important, because if we start well, then at least we have made that initial progress. But at the same time, it is also important to sustain it, because as creatures of habit, there is always a tendency that if we cultivate the bad habits along the way, we could be going down the rabbit hole. So, and probably I'll share more about this maybe in a later video. But I do hope that whatever has been shared, that you may draw some inspiration from it. And if you felt it was helpful, please click on the like button and do share your comments or what are your thoughts. If you are new to this channel, please do consider subscribing. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you soon. Take care.